Home buyers. So here's a case study I've talked to you about. Sometimes it's good to work with listing agents directly and protect yourself. Sometimes it's good to work with buyer's agents. Here's a real life scenario. I'm going to ask you what you think. Now, just to make a long story short, we had 10 offers. They spread from 1.2 to 1.6 at one point, 1.675. Now, as we were negotiating with these offers, the numbers coalesced around 165, with incidentally was pretty much where fair market value was at the time, in my opinion, considering the property needed work. It was elevated on a cul-de-sac, true, as my seller kept telling me, it's a great property. I totally agreed. But as the professionals and the buyers and everybody was telling me when they were coming through the property, no backyard, so not that great for families, and shared driveway, which was a wild card that a lot of professionals weren't all that interested in. They weren't all that keen on the shared driveway. Great part, though, cul-de-sac. Many of the comps are on busy streets. Elevated property. Like, to me, I love the property, too. Now, so we've got 10 offers. They're coming in. As prices are getting closer and closer to fair market value, we got about three offers at 165. And at that point in time, by then, the investors who were buying this property had eliminated their request for buyer agent commission if they ever had one to begin with. So one or two eliminated them. One just started with no buyer agent commission and got to that number. Now, as we were there, and my client still wanted to be at 1.7, but he was thinking about selling, one of the buyers who 10 days earlier put in an offer about 6 figures lower said, well, my client sold 3 properties. They're an investor. I told you about them before. And now we love this property. Before, we had to be a little bit more disciplined, but now we got to put our crews to work. We're still feeling good. We know the area is slowing down because we got those properties sold. We want to get to work on this property because we like our downside. Our downside is not that bad. Everyone wants these great mid-modern homes with the mid-century modern homes from the famous architect. We know our downside is limited. Maybe we'll still get the big upside in our numbers. So what do we got to do to win? And at this point in time, I said, well, my client's still looking for 1.7. We are negotiating. Make an offer, and we'll see what happens. So he came at 1.63 or something. I called him up. I said, look, I know we've already talked about it. You told me your clients buy homes in lots of states, that when they make the offer, they don't go into inspections and try to renegotiate. I want, first of all, if I choose to go with you, I want your principal to know that we have multiple offers, and I'm already telling everybody, I'm not going to renegotiate after inspection. So please, if you want to buy this home, make it a number you're going to close on, unless, of course, you're coming to find like foundation problems. But nothing ticky-tacky. We'll be allowed to renegotiate. We'll go with one of the other buyers. It's like, okay, cool. And we'd already worked that out the first time. So I knew this guy, knew the process. He came in and said, well, what do we got to do then to win, John? I said, well, you got to be 165, and you got to do it as a net. So I saw that you wanted, in the previous contract, you wanted buyer agent commissions. You're going to have to beat it by a little bit, or whatever my client feels sufficient. But you're also going to have to include your buyer agent commissions above that number. That's how we got to 1.675. Now, I ask you, if you've already signed a buyer agent agreement where you've agreed to pay your buyer agent 3%, and you love a property, let's say this is already fixed up, you like the property at this number, and there's multiple offers, and the buyer agent commissions have been negotiated away, because that's what happens if a listing agent's intelligent in a multiple offer negotiation. How are you going to buy that home? Are you going to have the down payment, in addition to the down payment money and the lender, are you going to have in this case, close to $50,000 to come out of your pocket to pay 3% to your buyer's agent? Are you going to want to do that? If you are, great. Then agree to pay your buyer agent ahead of time. But if you're not, I suggest to all buyers, remain flexible. Do not sign a buyer agent agreement until you've determined what the level of compensation is being offered by the seller. In fact, I would say be safer than that. And I talk about that in my training. And I also give you the form that you should use in my training at homebuyers.winnerscheck.com. Free form and the training on how to use it. But at the very least, don't sign that form until you find out what the seller is offering. I would go see the property. I'd have my client, if I liked it, then I'd have my buyer's agent call the listing agent and find out how much the seller is willing to pay in buyer agent commission. So then, when I was drafting up my offer, I would also put that number in the listing agreement. I'd say, by the way, I'm not paying you out of my pocket. And by the way, I'm not going to let you get in the way of me purchasing this home if that's not really the number. You can put that in writing too. And your buyer's agent's going to say, oh, that's the law. I can't do that. I have to have you agree to the number before I show you the property. And that's where the training comes in. But I'll show you the real law. And I'll show you what the Department of Real Estate says. And you'll see that the law is the number has to be determined. The payment of your buyer's agent, their compensation, doesn't have to be made until it's practicable. And the Department of Real Estate actually explains this. It's your realtor's trade association that's forcing them to do that. That's not the law in California. So that'll be in the next video. Yeah, it is. It'll be the next video. I'll make it right now. Then I'll be done with videos for the day. So, my name is John McConnin. I'm an attorney and a broker. This is my home buyer series. I've already got 5 or 6 great videos in the hopper discussing when to work with a buyer's agent, when you want to work with a direct listing agent. I still haven't made the videos because they're a little more self-serving about what we do for our clients. But that's the point of these. We're going to give you a series, the whole videos on how to be the people who actually buy the dream homes, the ones that the realtors are buying for themselves or family, the ones where they surrender their commissions to the listing agent and how they do it, the techniques, the questions they ask on the phone. We cover all that. And then the last few videos, I'm going to talk about how we can help you buy direct from the listing agent or, to remain flexible when you'd want to use a buyer's agent and how to do it. Don't make the mistake I did once buying a home for my family in Florida. So homebuyers.winnerscheck.com for the training and the forum. Thanks, bye.